the state is claiming are $28.9 million in legal expenses, but former South African President Jacob Zuma has responded, claiming he is entitled to equal damages for what he calls a malicious prosecution. Before we continue, please kindly hit on the subscribe button. Zuma's audacious suit complicates the protracted legal disputes that have characterized his post-presidency years even more. Zuma's argument is based on the claim that a politically driven effort to destroy him is responsible for the several accusations of fraud, corruption, and racketeering that have been made against him over the years. In a recent interview, Zuma said, "I have been subjected to a relentless legal assault, which has caused significant personal and financial harm. When I consider the losses I have incurred as a result of malicious prosecution, the state's demand for our $28.9 million in legal expenses is unfair." The former president's legal team is getting ready to make the case that the state's actions have caused mental suffering and financial hardship in addition to damaging Zuma's image. They argue that the losses Zuma alleges he suffered from being unfairly persecuted should be greater than the state's demand for legal expenses. "We believe that the state's pursuit of legal costs is unfounded when considered in the context of the continuous and unjust legal harassment Mr. Zuma has faced," said Thabani Masuku, Zuma's counsel. However, the state argues that Zuma ought to be made to pay for the high legal fees he accrued from his several court cases. "The taxpayers should not bear the financial burden of Mr. Zuma's extensive legal defense," said Fumla Williams, a spokesman for the government. "He should pay the state back for these costs as it is only right." On this issue, public opinion is highly split. Zuma supporters see his counterclaim as a legitimate retaliation for what they consider to be a politically motivated smear campaign. One fan remarked, "President Zuma has been unfairly targeted for years. He should be made whole for the unfair treatment he has received." However, some contend that Zuma's most recent action is a desperate effort to evade responsibility. A political observer said, "This is just another tactic to evade responsibility for his actions. Zuma's case is unlikely to succeed, and the state has a valid claim for legal expenses." South Africans are waiting to see whether the court will take Zuma's allegations of malicious prosecution into account while the legal battle rages on. The decision may have a significant impact on the former president and the state's attempts to recover its legal expenses. Once again, there has been a great deal of discourse on the internet about the MK Party and the ANC, especially in relation to the relationship between former President Jacob Zuma and current ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa. In a different context, former President Zuma gave him direct access to strong points of President Ramaphosa's agenda. According to Zuma's comments, Ramaphosa is more of a problem than a solution for the party's problems. This realization has led some people to analyze the importance of Zuma's aggressive behavior toward Ramaphosa. Nonetheless, the majority of these opinions are based on public declarations and appearances. A prominent remark made via internet distraction brought up the question of whether specific actions or choices made by Ramaphosa may have sparked Zuma's animosity. This request highlights the erratic nature of their relationship and implies that political or personal grievances may give rise to Zuma's malice. The public's advantage in this case displays the tensions inside the ANC, even if understanding the whole extent of their conflict without direct decrees or proof is challenging. The fact that political elements may often be firmly rooted in private disputes and divergent aspirations for the party's future is enormous. It should have been evident from Zuma's comments that the ANC had more philosophical wing members. For example, some experts argue that Zuma's advocacy for methods and personalities at odds with Ramaphosa's approach to change and organization management may be the driving force for Zuma's position. It is also essential to take into account the unquestionable context of their resistance, since this may have an impact on their ongoing connections and public statements. In the end, comprehending the whole of Zuma's perspectives on Ramaphosa requires a comprehensive analysis that takes into consideration both their individual stories and the larger ANC political landscape. The public's ongoing concern and anxiety over the party's structure and future prospects is seen in the constant discourse via internet distraction. An ANC veteran is criticized by Zuma loyalists for allegations made by the splinter party. An ANC veteran who questioned former President Jacob Zuma's judgment has been harshly chastised by a devoted Zuma admirer.